Look, I have my little blue microphone for good sound quality. Rock on. Trying to be professional here. All right, I'm back. Been a while. I know. I'm sorry. Just been busy and doing stuff, living life, married, have a kick-ass job that I got last year. Um, Music's been a bit on the back burner, as have podcasts. So sorry about that. Not that anyone is like, where's the podcasts? Where's the songs? Maybe they are. I don't know. Yeah, I know it's been a year. What's taking so long? But anyway, it just so happens that the inspiration has struck. And so I'm doing a podcast and playing music more often. I even have a show coming up. So I did really want to introduce to anybody who watches my podcasts this really cool kid that I've come across. I do talk about how I came to have him on my radar in the podcast, so I won't talk really a lot about that right now, but I'll just say that I don't know how to explain him, but he's really compelling, very compelling, entertaining, and really talented. This kid is going places. I know it. And when you meet people that you just know they're going places, it's so exciting. I don't mean to compare him to Justin Bieber in any way, but I was totally watching that video of him when he was like just such a young kid singing in his living room before he got famous. It was viral. I'm like, that kid's going places. That's kind of how I feel about this kid. But different. I don't know if it's like cool or uncool to be compared to Justin Bieber. And I'm not comparing. I'm just saying he's going places. Okay. You got to know him. You got to be introduced to him. His music's really good. Anyway, I'm really glad that it inspired me to make this podcast because I thought it would be really great to promote the new album that he's releasing on July 7th by using this platform. And then it's getting me back into making podcasts, which I haven't done in so long. So it's working out for both of us. Hope you enjoy. And also, really good to see y'all again.
Yeah, I had a dream that I just couldn't move. I woke up in a real good mood. I had dreams when I had something to prove. Look around now, it's so hard to lose. But when I'm in love, when I really am in love, I must be honest.
Right on. Okay, I was all puzzled there for a moment. Okay, cool. What's up?
You're sideways.
I'm sideways. Okay, well then I guess I'll flip it up. Okay, how's that? Am I rectangular?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Then we're great.
Okay, this is very exciting.
Rock on.
So, first, let's just be casual. How was your day?
Oh, well, I don't know, I woke up at like 7, which is very like out of character for me. But I was having these weird dreams, a lot of shapes. I don't know. There's a lot of red and white shapes, and it was weird. Then I woke up after sleeping for 3 or 4 hours, and I've been up since 7. I went out to the highway and played my saxophone for a while, and then I came home 20 minutes ago.
Is that your favorite place to play the saxophone?
I would prefer to just play in my room, but sadly, my dad sleeps through the day. So, I don't know.
Dad.
Yeah.
He was at open mic.
He was? Yeah.
Adjusting your guitar for you.
That's right. That's right.
He was so there. Cute.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So he's a big deal for you.
Yeah, of course he is. Of course he is.
I want to hear more about that at some point in this podcast. If you're
my dad.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Let's do that.
Okay. So here's the reason that I'm doing the podcast in the first place. I've taken a long hiatus. It's been a while. Right. I got a really cool job like a year ago, and then I got very focused on the job, and I've only maybe released 1 or 2 songs / podcasts since then.
Right.
So I'm glad that you've inspired me to get back into it, because my idea was, and if anybody's like watched or heard this before, they know my thinking behind it, but it's like There are a million documentaries on famous musicians in the world.
Yeah,
Endless. But what
right.
about the people who nobody knows about yet?
Yeah, there you
I
go.
feel like we're
That's
just
fun.
as interesting.
Hmm. Right on.
I know for sure you're extremely interesting. So I want to give people a platform to tell the world about themselves, who they are, and maybe one day you will be really well known and people will dig into the archives of the internet and try to find you when you were just a wee bab.
Yeah, I
And
feel like if I
nobody
was well known, it would be for something like that I didn't intend at all. Like I feel like if anything happened, it would just happen by accident. Like it would probably just be some stupid video rather than something I was actually trying to do. You know what I mean? But
organic.
it's happened a number of times. Like when I was really young, like 13 or 14, I had a few videos that got like a million hits and like,
A million?
yeah, but they were just like really dumb. I wish I could pull them up right now, but there was one. How do I describe this? Like, okay, daylight savings time, right? Um, I my grandma was watching the news channel, and the clock went from 2 a.m. to 1 a.m. And I just filmed it, and I was like, guys, it's gonna be 2 o'clock, and then it goes back to one, and I just go, what? And then it cuts off, and that got like 1.5 million hits, just like a 7-second video
Was
of
this
that.
TikTok?
No, this was YouTube,
Wow.
and it's out there. It's there.
Dude, okay. So you already kind of are connected, if I can speak in hippie terms, connected to the universe in some strange way. So it could be a one hit wonder kind of moment, or this is a sign of things to come.
That was 2016, so it's been a while.
How old were you?
I was like 13 or 14.
God, you're such a
Like
baby. How old are you now?
I'm 20 now.
You're 20. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm 16 years older than you.
No way.
Yeah,
Holy.
I'm so old. Oh my God, dude, I was 20
Hmm.
when I got sober.
Right on. Well, that's a good age to get sober, I think, because some people can't get past it, you know?
Yeah.
Like if you got sober at 20, then you didn't get like too deep into it, I guess.
No, I feel I was actually talking about this last night, how just to be off topic for a second, but like I was an extremely effed up child. Um,
Hmm.
but as far as the actual drug and alcohol use it was like this much compared to all the other shit, which is process
Yeah.
addictions,
Yeah.
all of that, like just all of that. I don't need to go
Oh
into
yeah.
it, but it's uh I knew that I was an addict. It's in my family. My brother, my dad, my grandpa, like my cousins and my aunts, and like da 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 da. It's
Hmm.
definitely genetic, and I certainly have it. And I knew I had it since I
Hmm.
was super young because I was been obsessive and compulsive all my life, like as a teenager, um, to such an extreme degree. And as soon as I picked up actual substances, it was like, okay, off to the races. Here we go.
Oh yeah, I
Um,
know, I know.
but I
Yeah.
desperately wanted to do something in music. I knew
Hmm.
I was supposed to do something music related, and I also knew that I wasn't going to be able to do that if I didn't get my shit together.
Exactly. Yeah. I
So
know.
I got sober.
I know it's hard for a lot of people, and yeah, I feel like the creative types attract a lot of madness as a blanket term for a whole barrage of things. But yeah, I don't. I definitely see a lot of madness, which is okay,
You see
But
it in yourself?
in myself, yeah. I think I have. Well, I'm kind of like into astrology, like so. I kind of almost look at those types of things in astrological terms, sort of. But like, yeah, I feel like I'm kind of like fiery, but then I have like a earthy streak too. I got something that just keeps me level headed, even when I'm acting mad on the surface. I feel like when you get into a group of people, then you collectively can amplify your desires. when you get together with a group of friends, then you start acting really dumb, or you start doing something really creative or something really cool, you know? So you can collaborate on stupid shit too, as well as, you know, good projects and stuff. But when you're with other people and you're being influenced to do bad things, I feel like a lot of times I'm the one who's gonna be the person to like be like, yo guys, like what are we doing here?
Really? You're not the one that's going over the top.
Um at first, yes.
Well, that's interesting because you do seem like the life of the party when you're in
Mhm.
a group setting, but I get what you mean. Like you kind of can tell where the boundaries are.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm good at that's why I like doing the Irish exit, like in a lot of social settings, like just randomly leaving without saying anything to anybody, because you get a feel for like where it's gonna plateau. I've that has saved my ass considerably a few times, like looking back and hearing what happened to the rest of the group later on. You know, it's like, wow, I'm glad I left that party when I did. I just knowing when to leave is like a very intuitive skill, and I'm glad that I think I have that.
Okay, so Mister, I know when to leave. Let's start back. That
Yeah.
when I first saw you,
Okay.
which is at the vault.
Okay.
I believe I recall that evening being an open mic evening. There was a bunch of rowdy teenagers showing up who all wanted to perform, and they had all this teenaged energy. It was very
Yeah.
exciting, and it was mad. And there was a bunch of them. There was, I don't know how many, but a little crew,
Yeah.
and that was fun. But
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, yeah, a bunch of teenagers. They're doing their thing. They're having a lot of fun. But I was like, oh, wait a second. There's this one of them. One of them is sticking out, and I'm not really sure why. I think he has something. I'll be very interested to see how he progresses. And it didn't take very long at all
Hmm.
to see that you clearly, clear as day, had something very, very special. And then you started hanging around more. I was hanging around there less. You were hanging around there more. Started working there.
Yeah.
And can you tell me about like your entrance into showing up at the vault and then starting to become like a vault person?
Yeah. That's funny. I used to go there. Okay, I moved to the island in 2018, like around like November, December, like the end of the year. And I stumbled in there one night. I was like 15 years old, and I remember like it was like the open mic night. It was actually the first time I'd ever gone to the vault. And I was just like roaming the streets, and I just heard music coming from that building, and I walked in, and I think I signed my name up because there was a free slot. So I was only sitting there for like 20 minutes, and yeah, I ended up on stage and I played like Modest Mouse or something, and like it was fun. I didn't do very well. I kind of forgot the words and couldn't play the chords correctly all the way, but I don't know. I was kind of figuring things out back then, but that was a lot of fun. So I started going there regularly, and then yeah, I started bringing people around there. I mean, I used to do that open mic a lot, like 4 years ago. I would bring my friends from school around, and I'm just like, hey, look at me do this thing. And so I guess, yeah, COVID, like they didn't do that for a few years, but once they brought that open mic back, like I really wanted to start doing that again. And then the reason I started working there actually is because Wes followed me on Instagram, and he was always posting like Van Morrison and Bob Dylan albums and stuff. And I would always slide up and be like, bro, this is dope. Like, hey, I love that Van Morrison. Yeah, that's cool. So when I moved back to the island last September for a while, I walked in there one day and I just said, yo, Wes, what's a fella got to do to get a job here? And he was just like, oh, you want a job? I was like, yeah. He's like, we're looking for dishwashers. I said, fuck it, let's do it. Like, I've heard it said from some people that it's kind of like hard to start working there in a sense, or you have to be kind of just like you have to be known or something. I think
Yeah,
that's
I've heard that it has the reputation of being clicky, which some
yeah.
I don't see that, but I do and I don't, I guess. Maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't struggle to get involved. I knew also I was like, this is a place I want to be part of, and I just kept showing up. And I knew
Mm-hmm.
if I showed up enough and hung out with people enough, eventually it would be like no one would remember when I wasn't there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. No, I feel like it's not like it is cliquey in the sense that all the friends of the coworkers hang around a lot, and a lot of people are involved in doing a lot of different things in that building. Like
Yeah.
everybody has a purpose, even if they aren't working there every day. But like and then but all sorts of people just come in and out all the time, and it's just the spot. So yeah.
It's like a spider web of connection. You've got the cafe itself,
Yeah.
and then the people who work there and those personal connections, and then
Mhm.
shops upstairs, and then all the bands,
Yeah.
and everyone plays in each other's bands.
Right.
It goes on and on and on with the connection. So I can see that being maybe intimidating coming in from the outside. But I
Yeah.
don't really think if you really want to be a part of it, I think maybe it's just me, I don't know. But if you really want to be a part of it, just show up enough and then you were
Yeah,
just fun.
exactly. Yeah. No, I definitely feel that way too. But I always liked being there since I first stepped in there. I was like, oh, this is a cool spot.
Wes, I could see being like an interesting character, and he has such an encyclopedia of music up in
Yeah,
his.
no, he's it's rare that I meet somebody that can best me in music knowledge, and Wes, Bill, and Eddie are definitely two people that can just completely stump me when it comes to like musical history. And I love that because when I can meet someone who I can bounce off as far as like knowledge of music and the history and whatever, it's great because then I get to learn more, and like we get to just share something that we love. It's great.
I'm very jealous of people who have that in their brains, because I've never been able to have an encyclopedia of anything except one thing specifically. I'll focus in on one artist hard.
That's not bad either, though. Sometimes I wish I was more like that. Like, yeah, because if you can really just like focus on a small subset of work, I guess, and you can kind of like imitate that or learn from it or take what you will from just a small group of things. Because like think about okay, like here's something interesting. Like okay, somebody like me or Wes or Dylan Eddie, we got the internet, and Wes is always reading books, and we're always in the record store, and it's just like everything's so accessible nowadays. Everything is so commodified and accessible, whereas like in the 60s, like people had small record collections, they costed a lot of money, and like people would like, so most people had like 20 or 30 albums, and it's just like that's what they learned everything they knew from like those small things. And like same with like learning music, you had to like either get lessons or find somebody who knew how to do a thing, and you had to learn in person. Nowadays you can just learn, like I freaking learned how to play guitar when I was 11 off of the freaking Marty Schwartz on YouTube, the guy with the fedora. Like that's how I learned like the G and C chords when I was like 10. So it's different now with all sorts of things. Everything's so commodified now. But yeah, but I think too, so it's kind of like, it's kind of how do I say it? I don't know. It's nice to just pull from a very small pool of things as well. I like that.
I think it goes with my obsessive nature.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I did that in a way that was beneficial to me as like a songwriter and a musician, other than just being like, oh, I like these songs, I like to listen to them, it gives me like a dopamine release or something. But I don't know if you've ever heard of Ani DeFranco. You have?
Mm-hmm.
So I was obsessed with her in high school, and I spent every spare moment that I had, like lunchtime in between classes, just going to the library. Bear in mind, this is back in the day when the internet's kind of new, and just sit in the library and look up her lyrics, like without even listening to the songs, and just studying them and studying the structure of her songs.
Right.
And so liberated to be like, oh, you know what? You don't have to do verse, chorus, bridge, chorus. There's like all these other ways, and all these ways of putting words together. And I was also so liberated by her incredible combination of really, really good poetry, and then also just these literal punches in the face. Oh, fuck. My dog needs to get in. Hang on. Let me get her.
I'm alone now. You're with me, Ryan Brio, on the podcast.
Have you met her?
I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, she's.
Oh. No, yeah. It's so good to have people expand your musical brain.
Yeah, no, it happens all the time. Happens all the time. And now I'm learning saxophone, which is just like,
Oh, so
I
that's for
love it.
real? You're actually learning it? I wasn't sure if it
Yeah.
was a joke.
No, no. Well, it is because it kind of is, because like I'm not good at it right now, so it's funny to play it like poorly. Like I see the humor in that, but I am taking the time to like learn it, and I've been taking a few hours out of every day just to like figure things out and just practice it and get comfortable with it versus like a different instrument like the guitar, because it's so alien compared to like the piano or the guitar or something. And I always wanted to learn like a brass instrument or a wind instrument even, but yeah. So when I found it at Value Village for $13, I was like, okay, I have to learn this. So I hope in like 2 or 3 months that I'll be like really good with it.
You practice every day?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Are you going to get lessons, or are you just going to do this on your own?
Well, just like I said, just like when I learned guitar like 10 years ago, like there was YouTube lessons already. And then like actually Dylan was telling me the other day that he had played saxophone 7 years ago, and he knew like some basics about like embouchure and like just the fingerings. So he like taught me some basic stuff, and I've just been going from there. So once I figured out, like I already have like a decent relative pitch. So once I can like figure out what notes are what, then I think I can just, get comfortable. And once I can just like roll through things quickly, then I might consider myself a saxophone player at some point. So
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. This seems to be very you. You just roll with your creativity.
yeah, well, like I would love to have that in my arsenal.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to just be able to like pull that card.
I know I've asked you this off camera before, but can you talk about how you got into music in the first place?
Yeah. Well, you wanted to talk about my dad, and of course, there's my dad. As for most people, it's a common story. Like when you ask people, like, "Oh, like how did you get into music? How'd you get interested? How'd you learn?" Usually they got a dad or an uncle, or their aunt or something, or their grandma. But I feel like that's the same story for most people. But yeah, for me, as my dad, he's like raising me on the Beatles and the freaking Rolling Stones and Van Halen and all that stuff. I was like, oh man, when I heard AC/DC and Van Halen when I was 7 years old, I was like, oh, I gotta do that. I had to be like that. So my dad actually was putting food on the table, just like playing gigs and stuff for a long time when I was a young child. So he'd always be like sleeping all day, but he would wake up and do a gig at like 9 o'clock. A lot of the times he would also do lessons. Like he would be a guitar teacher and whatever. And but I remember like by the time I was like 11 years old, like I would be going to gigs with him all the time, and I would play on stage with him. And so I got comfortable like playing in front of people there. But yeah, I would just sit in my room for like a long time and just like screw around with it, and just made mistakes, and but I did it a lot, and I just kept doing it, and I didn't stop.
So is it almost like it didn't necessarily dawn on you, oh, I really like music, I really want to do this in my life, or it was just kind of so embedded already in your regular household and lifestyle?
Yeah, I think like a bit of both. I think it's kind of natural, like a gravitation, but then there was a few moments like when I was young that I distinctly remember. It's almost, the feeling is almost like when I was really young, it's like, okay, it's time to do this. It's time to do that. Like I just felt that I was going to do music or whatever, but there were points where I was like, okay, it's time for me to learn these things so I can do this thing, or it's time for me to do this. And even last year, it's high time that I put music out into the public. So that's kind of how I've always felt about it since I was really young. It's like, it's time to learn the guitar. Right now, it's time to learn the saxophone.
Yeah, so this is all so self-directed, which is easy because a lot of people wait for the world to tell them what to do and when to do it. You seem to be really connected to some kind of inner driving force, which I very much relate to.
Yeah, when you get into like the spirituality of it, I don't know. I wouldn't even know how to describe it in words, but yeah, it is kind of spiritual too.
It's like when I was saying I knew that I needed to do this. I don't know why I knew that. Nobody told me that. Yeah. I didn't have any people in my family actually that played music like the way I do, but I knew it more than I knew anything. And I knew it so deeply and profoundly that it motivated me to actually get sober, which is, I don't know where that comes from. It's just in you.
It has the power to do that. I think it helps a lot of people just to have a creative pursuit of any kind, whether it's just like painting or music or whatever the hell.
It's very therapeutic, and it's good for the self-esteem too. I feel like just in the last couple months I've been more into it, and my self-esteem is boosted, and my brain is spinning a lot. Like I'm more stimulated all the time, like trying to work out lyrics or trying to like memorize songs that I'm covering.
Yeah, memorizing other people's stuff is definitely an interesting part of it. Like I like that as an exercise. Like that's its own thing. And I feel like that's a skill that I hadn't honed in on till like recently. So I like to memorize. Like when I got into Bob Dylan a year ago, like I was like, I gotta memorize these songs. And like he's got those Titanic songs that are like 9 and 10 minutes long.
The length and the phrasing. I love memorizing phrasing. People's phrasing is so interesting. Exactly. Even when I write something and like it's just starting to come out of my mouth for the first time, and so I'm like voice memoing gibberish or whatever, but there's some kind of rhythm and phrasing, and then I can't remember it when I try to redo it. So thank God I have to learn my own phrasing and rhythm. Yeah. And go back to it. Thank God for recording devices. I don't know how the fuck people did things for technology.
That's an interesting part too when you're writing a song. When you have something to say and then you're trying to figure out how to phrase it within the music. That's interesting. But I feel like my songwriting approach is different than it used to be for a long time. Like I used to sit down with a pen and paper and a guitar and I would write a song. But nowadays I'll just build a composition on the computer, and then I'll just like play guitar over like a drum loop or something, and like then I'll put bass on it, and then I'll just sing over it. Like I don't even write my lyrics anymore. Like I just kind of like come up with it. Like I'll come up with a line and I'll sing it into the microphone, and then I'll come up with another line and I'll sing that. So then I just have this kind of just like taped together thing, but it sounds seamless. But yeah, a lot of my songs I've just been like, I'll just write a line one at a time and I'll sing it. So I'd never need to write it down until it's done.
Wow. Okay, that is very interesting. Can we talk about honesty for a second? Is that the same kind of way that came about?
I think so, because that song, Honesty, like I was just sitting. Okay, I got really lost like 3 or 4 months ago. Like I was coming up with all these like jazz chords. Like I was doing this complex shit, and then I kept trying to top myself with how like weird I could do, but with no formal education. So it was kind of whack. But yeah, so I was like, why don't I just write a simple fucking song with the G and the C? Like I was like, why don't I just do one like that? And then I did that, and I programmed the drums, but I played them like on Logic. You can pull up like the keyboard, and it has like different triggers for like a kick drum and a snare and a hi-hat and a ride and a crash, whatever. And so I just played it like on the keyboard. So I had that whole thing going, and then I played the bass on it, and then I just played that guitar. And then there's just like 4 chords in it. I think this is like the chorus is like A minor 7 to the D7, and that's the whole song. But yeah, the lyrics I think I wrote like the way I just told you. It was just like I just kept saying I have a dream that this, I had a dream that I did that, and then so it was kind of like a template in a way, but I like it. It was like a format in a sense, you know. That's another thing about creativity too. I would like to mention this is like, okay, when you have like a blank canvas or like an empty piece of paper and you want to write a song, but then you have like you could literally do anything. Like, because you haven't started yet. So you could literally can like start with any idea, but like that's kind of bad too. Like this is another example, but when I work in Logic Pro, like there's like 700 different keyboard sounds. And it's like, how are you going to like lock in on one keyboard sound? How are you even going to decide what you want to do when you have that many? So once I started becoming more productive in Logic, I think what it actually took for me was just to like pick a few that I liked, so I could like develop a sound. And I kind of feel like that's the same thing as just like kind of like ruling down what you want to write about. So if you write a song and the verses go, I have a dream that I did this, I had a dream and that. And so then you have to, you start to like form something. So I think that's for me, like once there's like a ground base level, like template to work off of, I think that's where the creativity really comes from, because you can like break it. Like, because I feel like when I started writing that song, I had a dream the devil walked behind me. I woke up, there you were beside me. Like, and then the chorus, when I'm in love, when I really am in love, I must be honest. I felt that when I was writing it, I liked it, but I was like, this is a bit melodramatic. So I wrote that like second or third verse where I was like, I woke up in a real good mood. Like that was funny to me. Like that was like a joke to me. Like that. So when we did the music video too, I was just like doing a goofy smile and the thumbs up. So like, yeah, I like to just throw a little joke in there too, especially if it's a more like overcast kind of thing. I think that's good too.
Why? Were you uncomfortable with it being too serious?
Well, because yeah, oh wow. There is a reason for that. There is like, okay, you know, you ever seen that video for Jamiroquai Virtual Insanity? He's like dancing around and like the floor is moving. I just have this like vision, like that video really hit me like 5 years ago, because I just feel like the environment he's in that video is so like sterile and perfect, and like the couches are all so clean. But then there's like, it just cuts to like a cockroach. The whole video just becomes like the cockroach crawling on the floor, and it's like the one thing. I think my experience with psychedelics too is just like nothing is perfect, you know? Like no matter how perfect you try to make something, like something really messed up or fucked up will just like crawl through. And that's in astrology too, the 12th house, the house of the unfinished business. You know, it's like, so I don't know I don't know how clear I'm being about this. I don't know how
this is very clear, and it's incredibly interesting. Okay. Keep going.
But like when I write a song, like honestly, it's like, if I don't want to write a song that's completely melodramatic or like emotional or sappy or sentimental or anything. Like if I'm going to write a song that's those things, overcast, sappy, sentimental, whatever, you just throw like one little thing in there that's just like stupid or funny. Like just one little thing that just like shifts the polarity of the mood, just for a little small thing. Like I like to just, you just kind of just throw a little fork in whatever you're doing. I think that keeps things interesting,
because that reflects how you understand reality to be. It is imperfect.
Yeah,
that's very interesting. I love that. I love how that comes through in your creative process.
Oh man, I'm giving away my secrets now. But my dad's always kind of telling me those types of things too. I remember going to him with a song last year, and it was like a heartbreak song, and I never ended up using it because like, I don't know, it was kind of silly and over the top. But he was just like, throw a fork in it. He was like, put a really distorted guitar, but like really low in the mix. Like that was just an example he came up with. It's like a fundamental rule to like throw a fork in something, I guess, for me, but it can mean anything depending on what you're doing, you know? So I like things like that.
It makes me want to spend some time thinking about how my own worldview is coming through in my process. I couldn't even begin to start that in this moment, but I'm going to be thinking about that afterwards.
Yeah, I wouldn't even question something like that, like, because I think like personally, I would just accept that that's what's happening, you know, because it's like, obviously like the music I'm making is just going to mirror like what's up with me, you know? Like, I guess that's just my own approach. But I know some people, like, what I kind of envy is like I got a friend who just, he's a brilliant songwriter, and I really wish he would put music out, but he's just got these archives that he just shows to his friends, and they're really good. But yeah, he probably put them out. I don't know if he's going to see this or not, but anyway, but he only writes about other people. He only writes like made up stories, like almost as if he's like Steely Dan, if Steely Dan was a rapper. But I like that. I like an artist who just creates stories about imaginary people or situations instead of, well, not to say that my own music is explicitly like autobiographical or anything, but I like people that just like leave their personal business like completely outside of what they're doing creatively or artistically. I think that's cool.
Isn't that what a good like novelist is supposed to be able to do? Remove themselves. I don't know how to do that. That just seems so hard. It's like, how do I get out of my own brain? Everything that I think is through my very personal filter.
Yeah, I get that too. I kind of feel the same way.
It's almost like I can pretend it's about somebody else. I can write it so it looks like it's about somebody else, but it's really me.
I feel like it might be very cathartic to try to do something like that, to just detach from the self through writing. All right, maybe that's my next album.
Maybe it could be the new template.
Yeah. Well, I want to try new things now. I'm getting like, with my current skill set, I was kind of wondering for a bit how to build off like the skill set that I have right now. Like, where can I go from here, kind of thing. Because I feel like I'm repeating myself at this point, even though I have like 200 tracks in the vault right now. I mean, in my vaults, not the vault. Yeah. Okay. Uh, but yeah, I feel like I'm just kind of repeating myself at some point. So that's why I'm so excited about the saxophone, actually, because like I feel already, like, even after a week, like I feel like it's opening new avenues for like other areas of my creative process.
That's a great idea. I think I usually use getting obsessed with a new artist. That's how I start shifting and get out of my repetition.
Yeah. I've felt that like a number of times. Like when I find a new artist or a new sound, it opens my eyes. But for me now, that happens with like really old things. Like I've been influenced by a lot of like music from the 60s and 70s, like a lot of jazz and psychedelic rock kind of. I think that comes out in my new album.
It doesn't have to be new, but just new to you.
Yeah, exactly. Because you can pull whatever you want out of something. Whatever you make is just going to sound like whatever it does. I don't know. That's what, yeah. I had kind of an epiphany almost like a couple of weeks ago. All the revered artists, authors, filmmakers, anything, they just brought whatever they brought to the table, you know? Like, it wasn't like there was a place reserved for this or that person prior to whatever they accomplished, you know? It's just like people just naturally accepted gifted artists for whatever they brought to the table, whatever it was, because you can't suspect what somebody's going to do next, you know? You can only just embrace it for what it is and just go, oh, this is good, or I really love this for this or that reason. But yeah, I was just like all these big artists, they just found their own way to get it popping. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, like there's room for you.
And you have to be daring too, you know? You have to be like not afraid to just do something that people might not accept.
Have you done this yet?
There's a couple songs on my record that I can't really equate to like anything. I can't fully or objectively equate what I've created to like what I've heard directly. So I don't know how the hell people might feel about like some of my songs, but I'm excited to. I like that too. Like when I put out my first record last November, like I liked the reactions. I liked the way what people said about the music and what people told me about how it made them feel or what it made them think about or whatever. Like that was interesting to me.
Is there any moment like that on this forthcoming album that you're thinking about in particular?
I got this song on there. It's not a loop, but I keep repeating myself. And I'm repeating kind of like a strange phrase that doesn't make any sense at first because there's no context. But then there's like a lead vocal that comes over the top about halfway through the song. And I start speaking about something that makes the background vocal make sense in the context. But the song's weird. It has this odd bass line that I just kind of heard in my head one day. But I love it. I love it. And I think a few people have told me it's a really nice song. So hopefully people like it. But I like doing edgy things that are still accessible, that still have like the fundamentals that people can enjoy or understand.
Yeah.
So I've pulled from a lot of weird influences lately as well, like SoundCloud rappers and like 100 Gex. Like, yeah, I like SoundCloud rap, and I've definitely pulled some influence from that for this record, which is kind of odd, but I don't know. I like how I did it. I'm proud of how I did it.
I'm proud of you too. I don't even know what it is, but I know it's going to be cool.
Well, it's out July 7th.
July 7th, baby. Physical comedy. What was do you remember the first song you ever wrote?
The first song I ever wrote? Like what? Like ever?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was on November 11th, 2007.
Actually?
Yeah, it was Remembrance Day. And I was just kind of just repeating. I was standing so we had a toy plastic slide in the backyard. This is in Brampton. And I was just standing on the top of it, and I remember I was going, Remembrance Day, Remembrance Day, Remembrance Day. Like, not that low. I was like 4 or 5 years old, but that's kind of how it went. So it was like a song commemorating Remembrance Day because I felt the pain of our fallen troops, our fallen soldiers. So that was, I think, the first song I wrote.
Just a cappella, or did you?
Like, what do you consider a song? At what point do you consider a song? Like,
I don't know, when you could go, hey, listen to this. I wrote this, or like, I recorded this.
There's been a few like turning points. There's been a few turning points where I feel like, okay, this is like serious now. Like, I don't know, there's a lot of recordings of me like babbling in song on like videotape from when I was like 3. I mean, that's before the Remembrance Day joint. But I think when I was like 11 or 12, like I wanted to start making records. Like I knew I wanted to like make a record. Like I started buying CDs all the time, and I was like, man, I want to put out a CD. I wrote a bunch of whack songs. Like I wanted to write like a rock opera because I kept listening to like King Crimson and like Yes and shit. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna make like a concept album. And like it was like really shit, but I still have like the lyrics. I don't remember how like the melodies go or whatever. I don't know, but yeah. I remember like because you feel like a lot of times you write a song, you like feel the pain in your heart, you know, like you got upset over like some girl or something. So I remember like the first time I wrote a song about like a girl was like I was like 14, and yeah, I don't know, like this girl just kind of like rejected me or something, and I was like, oh man, and I rode my bike home from school like listening to like the Smiths or some shit, and I was like, I want to write a song like Morrissey did, and I wrote this song called Anna, and I like that song. I played it at the Vault a number of times. Maybe I'll just go and do it next Wednesday because like I got there. That's like probably like the first time I wrote a fully fleshed out song that I have in my head to this day where I could just bust it out. And so there's an answer, I guess.
That's like, amazing. I know it's such a cliche that we write when we're in pain, but it's true.
Yeah, well, that's what you do. I mean, I was like 12 or 13. That was a phase of mine where I was all about like quantity over quality because I just wanted to flex like, oh, I'm writing like 10 songs a day, which I was, but they'd be about complete nonsense, and there wouldn't be any focus on any individual song. I would just write them all the time, and they would all be like 3-chord strummers. But yeah, I wrote like probably like 200 songs when I was like 13.
Are they documented, or are some of them lost?
No, they're out there.
Oh, I love that. I have everything as well. I have like a stack of songbooks. So like it's just page 1, page 2, page 3. And it's about that. Like I'm sure it sounds like you're probably hundreds and hundreds at this point.
Yeah. No, they're all over the place. Like they're up in the attic. There's a lot on the internet, but like just in obscure pockets, you know, I got band camps and whatever. They're out there if you want to try and find them.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I like listening to my old shitty shit. I would never. Yeah. That's not true. Okay, I want to say I would never share it with the world, but I do have my first ever album on my Bandcamp, and I was like, I don't know how I feel about doing this because it's so embarrassing. Like some of these songs are okay, but a lot of them are really, really embarrassing and reflect just the most stereotypical, dramatic teenaged girl.
Yeah.
From like Ladysmith, BC, and all of her crushes and tortured thoughts and everything. Like it's really classic teenager stuff. And so it's hard to be like vulnerable enough to have that just sitting there. It's like you can just see this window into my past and when I was away that I cringe at now. But I have to honor that child as well.
Yeah.
Like without her, I would not be where I'm at.
I didn't know you were from Ladysmith, as a matter of fact. It's nice, but it kind of creeps me out too. Like, I don't know, Ladysmith, like, that's what I have to say about it. Like, I don't know. I feel like when I hung around in Ladysmith, like, I got a lot of, like, weird looks, you know? I feel like there's, like, a stare in Ladysmith.
Really?
Yeah, I felt like I was always being like looked at. I don't know, maybe I was internalizing it, but or however you say that. But yeah, no, I felt that like people would like just kind of like glare at you from their cars or like on the sidewalk and shit. Like it happened a lot. It definitely happened a lot.
Wow.
I don't know. I don't know if it was me or them. I don't know. But yeah, Ladysmith otherwise is like, yeah, I met a lot of good people there. And I like the little downtown area and too, Like I like the buildings there, very pretty.
Yeah, it's got that old-timey vibe to it.
Mm-hmm.
So many of the buildings are the same as they were like 100 years ago.
It's very like
My grandma was born there, and my dad was born there, and I was born like so many generations, and they like to keep a lot of the stuff in as much as the same condition as possible, which makes it really cool. And I think about how different it is now. My dad tells me stories about when he was in his 20s and he was a logger, and apparently the industry was booming back then, and they would work so hard and then they'd come home and party hard, and the bars would have lineups down the street. I guess, I don't know, the 70s, 80s.
I heard there was like a guy, it had something to do with like a bush plane and some LSD. I don't really know the story too well, but there's some guy who lived in Ladysmith in the 60s who was just like making LSD in his garage or something and like flying it down to California. I could be telling this all wrong, but I heard some stories about some interesting cats coming out of there now. And Pamela Anderson lives there now too.
Yeah, I just watched her documentary like last weekend, and it's so weird because she lives right next door to my aunt and uncle, and it's like, oh, I've seen that. That's the same beach that I grew up on, like the exact same rocks and like little posts in the water and everything. Like, wow.
Yeah, I know. Well, she grew up there, didn't she? She like grew up there. I don't know. I feel like a lot of the people that I met in Ladysmith seem to think they're on a first name basis with Pamela Anderson. But I felt there was I heard a lot of the time in Ladysmith, I saw Pam at the grocery store. I like that.
That's what it's like. I mean, it is such a small town, and she's just, she's like a normal person. Goes to the pharmacy, grocery store, post office. There's Pam.
I think she goes to like the council meetings too in Nanaimo.
Yeah?
Yeah, I saw that on Reddit.
I always thought it would be funny to hook her up with Jason Felker. You know Jason Felker from Sweet Dreams? Yeah. I was like, that would be a good match. I don't know why. I just like it. It would be maybe grounding for her.
Yeah, there you go.
And he'd be so stoked. Yeah. Okay, so you are you live in Montreal / Nanaimo now?
Yeah.
2 homes?
Yeah, let's say that, yeah.
Okay, so what are your... I don't know how to say this in a cool way, but what are your goals? You made a big move, so you must have something in mind.
Well, yeah, I just want to be in an environment where I can book gigs easily and meet a lot of people who want to go to gigs or be creative or make music and want to live in a cool city that's 400 years old with like cool old buildings and like nice cafes and whatever the hell that's like cheap to live in. It's like, I don't know, I feel like, Montreal's like the last great place in Canada for that kind of thing. It just has everything I'm looking for. So I got to be there.
How did you prepare for that? Did you save up a bunch of money?
It happened completely by accident. I got fired from a job I really hated when I lived in Vancouver. And I was working like 60 hours a week and I was like barely scraping up enough money for rent. And like, I kind of just was so fed up with everything that I gave up my bedroom in Vancouver and I flew to my grandmother's house in Toronto and I stayed there for like 4 days. And while I was there, a mutual friend of mine on Instagram was offering a room in Montreal for like $700 or something, but it was only for 1 month. And I was like, well, fuck it. Like, I was like, hey, yeah, I'll take that. And so I flew there like a week later and I'd never been before. And I moved into this like really cool house for a month. And my roommates ended up being like these like break dancers because breakdancing is actually going to be an Olympic sport coming up. So they were doing like the like tryouts for like Canadian Olympic breakdancing, and like a lot of those guys were like my roommates and like hanging around this apartment all the time. And it was like I was going to all these like ciphers where they're just like having like dance battles and shit, and like I went out to so many like cool jazz clubs, and then I saw a lot of weird like artsy performances, and like it was a very visionary month for me when I first went to Montreal. I loved it. So I was like, yeah. So I just moved back to Nanaimo and never moved back to Vancouver again. And I just spent like the winter previous just like saving up money here. And then I just went to Montreal in March. And then I figured I'd just come back here for June. But I'll be back there and I'll be staying.
And you met a shit ton of people already.
Yeah, I met a lot. I was very lucky when I went back to Montreal in March because I ended up joining a band who needed a guitar player like maybe like a week after I moved there.
How did you find these people?
Actually, they had actually relocated from Vancouver, so I knew them
from
the year previous. And yeah, they were just posting on Instagram they needed a guitar player. I was like, I can play guitar, and I just moved here, so they had a bunch of gigs booked, so we were playing like every week, and like I just started to meet the people around, met the other bands, met all the photographers, and yeah, so I met a lot of people in a short time there. I just find that Montreal's so much friendlier like than Vancouver.
So you're just gonna kind of let it unfold, like continue to follow your creative voices.
Yeah, like as far as my goals, like I don't know what's going to happen or how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen.
You just know it's going to happen.
Yeah, something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. Something's bound to happen.
You can rely on your everything that you have, your natural resources, I feel like is more than enough, which is why I'm so excited to watch your journey, so to speak.
But I feel very privileged too. Like I have and that I have been given are just like, yeah, I feel very lucky. I'm not wealthy or anything, but I do have certain things that most other people don't have. And yeah, I'm grateful for that.
Like what?
Oh, I don't know.
It's uncomfortable to say nice things about yourself, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was saying to you the other day that you have the X factor. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you actually know without, like, I know it's uncomfortable to be like, okay, yeah. But do you know that as well as everybody else knows that?
I don't know. Like, that's like, I feel like I don't want to know that. Like, if that were true, like, I'd rather just, be innocently unaware.
No, that's good. I don't know if you, try to be innocently unaware, I guess, but also you can believe in yourself because you have what you need. I noticed too, I got to do door for your show at Vault Skateboards, whenever that was. Like I always knew you were very compelling when you're on stage, like when you're doing stuff, you're vocalizing, you're moving around, like all the obvious things that people pay attention to. But also I noticed when you're just, there's a moment where you were at the drum set and you were just staring almost blankly out into space. Yeah. Even that was compelling.
Was it?
Even that I was like, wow, how does he keep literally everything he does interesting? I don't think you mean to, but that's what I mean by having the X factor. Like you just have something that's very, like I want to watch. It's like, sorry, that sounds kind of creepy, but like Taylor Swift, for example, for me, I can't stop watching like the way she moves her body and like her face. I'm like, how do you have those lips? Like those lips are so cool, and her teeth and just like all the little things about her I just find endlessly interesting. She's a genius. Fuck, I know. She's my thing right now, which I was talking, remember that girl who played at open mic last night? I don't know if you were in the room when she performed a song she wrote about burning her lips on a cup of coffee. Yeah, that girl, yeah. Yeah, she was telling me that she, she has kind of a bias against anything that's mainstream, which I used to feel that way, and then eventually I kind of had to give in and be like, some things I just really shamelessly love, and I shamelessly am inspired by it. It's giving me so much that I just have to be honest. Some things, Anita Franco, she was cool. She was more underground. People didn't know about her. She was very non-mainstream. Said things that weren't mainstream. Her style wasn't like all of that. So it's like I felt comfortable liking her. Like I could be cool liking her. But so many other artists, not cool. Like I talked to Max on the podcast we did. I don't know if you know this band because this is way before your time, but I was obsessed with Hanson.
Oh yeah,
You know those three brothers saying Mbop, plus like hundreds of other songs. But I love them so much. I literally went to New York so that I could watch them perform 5 nights in a row. They did an entire set list from every album that they had. The full set list, and I was there for it.
Yeah, I had a dream that my brother came back.
You know, I think that is why that line is so like stuck in my brain, because it's I don't know what you're talking about, all these like poetic things that you're saying, and then it's this hard-hitting piece of truth.
I think I put that line like in the place of a verse, like it's the only thing out of like X amount of bars. It's just like in the middle of the instrumental part.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So I liked that too. And then the next verse, like there's a lot of words. That's the most wordy part of the song after that. So yeah, that was kind of interesting too. But that I didn't think about any of that. That song just came out in like probably 15 or 20 minutes. Took me to write that. And that was again where I was just like writing something one by one, and I think I just sang it, and then I sang the next line, and then I sang the next line as I was just coming up with it. And it might have taken like 15 minutes.
Sometimes it's when you're not delving into the musically academic depths of your mind. Yeah, you think it's going to be the most interesting way down there. You're stretching your limitations. It's like the simple things that have the most impact.
Totally. That's why I think I mentioned on Instagram like a week ago, I was like I think my big thing now is like just consistency and just working all the time, because it's like when I wake up in the morning, like I don't know what I'm going to do or where my mind will go on a particular day. So if I just open up my laptop and pick my guitar up and like whatever the hell comes out of whatever I do, I can't foresee it. You know, I can't foresee like what I'm like. It's not like that anymore where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna write a song about this thing or that thing. And it's just kind of like it just manifests from like a different place. Like some people say that like a song went through them, like when they wrote a song, you know, it's like that song went through me. And it's like sometimes, it's just like you don't think about it. Or sometimes one of the songs on my record, I was in a hurry to leave the house, but I had to like finish this thing I had started. So I feel like there's a verse on my record. I'm not even gonna say where it is or what it is, but there's a verse on my record where I feel like the first half of it is like way better than the second half, because I had to like go leave and do this thing. So I kind of rushed the back end of it, but I think it's funny too.
Yeah, and it's so refreshing to me as like an old lady, although I might not look
Don't call yourself that.
I know I don't look my age, but having been writing songs for the last 20 plus years, it's really refreshing to talk to someone who's just in the first, decade, I guess. Yeah. And to see that it's very unlimited creativity. Like it doesn't feel like you have a lot of no's and limitations. You just go with it. And I need to be in touch with people or listen to their music who are like that, because it's reinvigorating me after going through so many phases. It's like, what can I do that's new? What can I do that's different? I've done this for so long, I get in a rut. And so it's really nice to talk to you and hear where you're at and your process. And I've always been so excited about watching you grow and like what you're going to do next. And is there anything you want to say before we go about Physical Comedy that's coming out July 7th?
Yeah, sure. Let's go. I started writing that record in this room last November. Like I started recording for that record. I think 2 of the songs were actually recorded like the same week my last album came out, because I just started working as soon as I felt so free after I put the first record out. So maybe let's kind of keep this concise, but like, yeah, when I put the first record out and I was done working on that, I just felt like I had so much freedom to just like start new stuff without like worry of anything, deadlines or anything, or commitments to whatever I had told people was going to come out or whatever. So I feel like that was a good creative period, like last November. And like, I think about half of the record just was written like within like 4 weeks then. And then like the second half of the record actually was written more recently, like past 3 months or so. So that like, I think 2 months ago is when I realized I had like another like 40 minutes worth of material on my hands that I wanted to put out as a project. By the way, Physical Comedy is 40 minutes and 0 seconds long, which I think is pretty cool. And it's 10 tracks.
Wow.
So anyway, there was a lot of man hours there. And I think I worked really hard to put myself in a position where I didn't have to have a job for a while. And I basically, that was like, Physical Comedy was a full-time gig for a bit. And so, yeah, I think I'm finally finished with it. I submitted it like 4 days ago, and it's ready to come out on July 7th. And I think it's the best thing I've ever done in my life. And yeah, to whoever's watching, I hope you love it. Hope you love it.
You've released one single. Honesty is the only single you've released from it, right?
Yeah, I meant to put out 2 more, but I don't know. I don't know. I was tweaking things too much, and I missed the deadline. But the main deadline was July 7th, because so many people, once I got Mac DeMarco to say July 7th, I had to there was no going back.
What the hell? We didn't even talk about that, although I'm pretty sure we don't have
We don't
time.
need to talk about it. I just ran into him on the street. He's a nice guy.
See, you're connected.
Yeah.
So just have faith in all of the unseen. It's all going to be fine. It's all going to be great.
It's like magic. Well, Kendall, I'm going to go pick up my brother from school, and I'm going to take him down to the gig, and I'm going to rock the body that rocks the party. Okay?
Okay. Thanks for talking to me.
Peace. Peace.
I had a dream the devil walked behind me. And I woke up and there you were beside me. But when I'm in love, when I really am in love, I must be honest. Yeah.